All right, hey guys, welcome. So I decided to go ahead and cross dip and put this on Instagram and YouTube. So some of you might be watching this on YouTube, some of you might be watching on Instagram, but I think it was very pertinent for the Instagram community to also hear this message or this talk. It is a little bit longer than stuff that I normally put on Instagram, but I think it's really valuable given the state of the world right now, given a couple of the comments that or the captions that I've written in the past few weeks that are maybe could come off as a little more aggressive. But there's a reason for it. And so sometimes it's just the easiest way to connect some dots is by speaking it instead of just trying to write it and keep it into the whatever 1,000 characters or whatever you get on Instagram. Okay, so what started this specific video was that we are back in our home base in Polson. And as much as I love it, it's beautiful. We left our fifth wheel in Florida and thought, oh, we'll just come back in the spring. But the funny thing about travel is like a lot of times you're just happy wherever you are. And I got back here and I'm like, man, I really love it. I kind of don't want to go back to Florida now, but I got my fifth wheel there. And so I thought, well, the skiing's okay, but slightly icy. Maybe I'll just make a run for it. And that's triggered a huge conflict between my husband and I. Like, oh my gosh, you're gonna, like, we just got back from a trip. Why are you going on a trip again? I can't believe it. Why are you leaving me? You are always leaving me. And it triggers all these different emotions that are totally normal. But when I work with people in coaching, we always try to get to the root emotion, or even in health and fitness, you're trying to get to the most upstream issue that's causing conflicts in our life, or causing us to be unhappy, or causing us to be anxious or depressed or overweight, or whatever the symptom is. They all come from an uproot issue or an upstream issue. And so over the last few days, Victor and I have been talking about it and trying to figure out, like, okay, well, this is programming coming out. Like, you can come on the trip. Why not? Just come with me. But I don't like to drive. Okay, well, then stay back. That's awesome. Just stay back. Be happy. It's cool. But what ends up happening is you ask enough questions, you realize, not you per se, but the person you're talking to hopefully might realize that whatever decisions we're making are based on whatever we perceive reality to be, right? Our perception drives our reality. So if our perception is that, what I have on my beautiful drawings, by the way, I can't draw, but if our perceptions are based on a reality that we've basically accepted, and so that was my amazing drawings that I started, and like it might start, not for everybody, but probably 99% of the people watching, it starts with the perception that we are here in our house as kids, right? And maybe we're happy, maybe we're unhappy, but we end up being in this situation where either maybe we feel unheard, maybe there's some abusive tendencies, maybe we're just, our parents are busy and they don't have a chance to spend a lot of time with us. Whatever it is, we end up with this like set conflict. And it might be a small conflict, it might be a huge conflict. The thing is our body treats all conflict kind of the same. And so a little trauma can be a big trauma to us, or a big trauma can be, some people maybe don't have as much negative repercussions from it. But whatever it is, we're even myself who like, oh, I'm raising my kids this great way. I am not kidding myself. I am still presenting them with certain traumas that they are having to overcome. The key is to be that parent who recognizes this is the trauma, this is the thing that you're giving your kid, this is the programming you're giving them. It's not like we're going to avoid giving our kids programs. We have to be mindful of what program we are giving and take responsibility for it. So we might start here and then we come over to school, right? And we go to school and we hope that, well, maybe here we're going to get that acceptance that we need. Okay? Or maybe we went there and we felt rejected. Okay? Maybe we were just so overwhelmed. Whatever it did, it still created its own emotional response, right? Maybe we felt lost in the crowd. Whatever it is, we take that first from our home life, then in our schooling, and then we take it over to our job, right? And hopefully here we earn some money And so that gives us some validation. Okay. And then that validation lets us go into life, and then we get to come over here and we get to spend money on a bigger house. And then maybe we have a fancy car, or wherever we want to spend, lots of clothes. My husband, when we were arguing this weekend, he's like, do you know I only own 2 pairs of pants? I'm like, you can buy more pants. He's like, but can I? And it's not a function of that. It's a function of like, what does it serve? Of course you can buy more pants, but there has to be this communication of like, hey, is more clothes, a bigger house, new car, is that the solution? Is that what's the why behind it? And so what happens here, and I'm going to come back to it, is we go from this some form of our childhood, this rejection, or this inner conflict, or external conflict. And we try to work our way through school and our teen years in trying to solve it. But sometimes it just adds more. Sometimes we just add layers of more conflict. And Christiane Northrup was talking about this. What were we watching? I don't know. We were watching something. And how she sees parents who they all of a sudden, their teenage daughters get to be about 12 or 13. And the mom doesn't step in and start disciplining their daughters because she wants to be their best friend, because she didn't get accepted when she was in those years herself. So now she's reliving those teen years and hoping her kids form that acceptance for her. And so then we could become very passive in our parenting, hence why my gentle parenting comment in one of our Instagram posts. It's not against gentle parenting. It's against finding a balance between expectation, discipline, and emotional awareness. But in small caption, it might come out as like gentle parenting is the wrong way to go. And that's not at all what I'm saying. It's that we don't want to use parenting as a way to find our own acceptance. We have to find that for ourselves. And so what happens along this way is that we become really good chameleons. We become chameleons to the system, right? We adapt. We're like, okay, these are the rules here. I'm going to play the rules here in school. Okay, these are the rules here. I'm going to play those rules. And there, I'm going to play these rules. And we might not realize, if we're parents, that we are subconsciously, your subconscious is like 60 to 80,000 thoughts every single day, 95% of which you're not even aware of. So subconsciously, you might be sending your kids through this same program. And maybe you're like, well, that's it. Like I know people very close to me that are like, well, that's the meaning of life, to have security and a good paying job and a car that's not going to break down on you. That's okay, as long as it doesn't cause what we do see happen a lot of times. Well, a lot of people chameleonize to the system, and they get to this point and they're battling with anxiety, depression, can't lose weight, eventually it becomes disease. And so we don't necessarily look at this end result as a function of all this stuff that happened here. We just assume, oh, we're victims. This happened to me, right? Cancer attacked me. I just got heart disease. I had, that person just got a stroke. Like, they don't look at all the things that built up along the way that could have caused that to begin with. And so the role I wanted to play, what I encourage you to do, is like not put your kids back through that routine. Like there's this unsaid expectation that our kids are supposed to go through the exact same program that we went through, but we're different, right? So we tend to, the Celestine Prophecy is a really good book about this, but if we had this excessive trauma in our life, then we're going to come to being very passive. Or if we had a very authoritative parent, then we might become very passive. Or I know I'll talk to Victor about, like, he might play the aloof card, like, oh, it's all good, it's all good. But it's not all good, because these are the things that start to tell you it's not all good. And I know because 12 years ago, he had severe adrenal exhaustion, and it was all that pent up trauma from back here that your cells don't forget. Your cells remember them. So at some point, they're going to come to the surface, okay? And so what we can do sometimes is we can find little temporary reliefs, right? We can diffuse it a little bit. So now my drawings are gonna get really, really bad. And so maybe we get to this point, and I had a great, I was like, look at how I draw a tent, because I just can't draw. Whatever, we go camping, let's say, for the weekend, and we're like, all right, we're out in nature, it feels so good, I'm connected with the universe. But a lot of times when we do that, we take a lot of time in planning, and I know this because I'm a blogger, and I'm amazed at like how many blogs there are, like how to plan a camping trip and how to plan, like, don't you just go and do it? I don't think this way, because I don't do it necessarily this way, but you plan, and you like make sure you have the best sleep pad and the best sleeping bag, and you have everything so that you have maximum comfort, and you get to relax and sit under the stars, and it's awesome. You totally should do that. But the problem is a lot of times we go from here, and personally, ours used to be yearly, twice a year trips to Hawaii. And we'd sit on the beach and everything's great. But then you put yourself right back into this loop when you come back on the weekend, or when you come back from your Hawaiian vacation. And it's not to say that this isn't valid, that this isn't valuable. It's super important. The problem comes is that it's predictable and you're not growing. You're not learning something new. And the reason we don't do that is because all the good things that start to deconstruct this, the things that, in fact, let me erase this. There's very little self-growth. There's a stress relief here, but there's very little actual self-growth to something more. And what it takes for us to get there is being more time in the unknown. And this is really hard because we don't like the unknown. We want predictability. We want safety. We want security, right? We don't want to seek discomfort. I don't walk out my door and think, all right, how uncomfortable can I be today? No. I have to fight that. Like, I have to have some goal bigger that drives me to accept whatever discomfort or unknown might come my way, that I'm going to be able and capable to adapt to it as much as possible. And so really what started was, I have this cool book. I don't think I ever put it on Instagram. I really should talk about it more, but it's a chakra healing book. And chakras are these energy hubs in your body. They absolutely, like Victor and I do energy healings on people all the time. Like, it is mind-blowing what happens when you can balance out these energies within you. But I think based on how much that past drawing, how much you're stuck into that old programming, is how much you are willing or allowing yourself to unlock those energy hubs. And so stepping into the unknown. Okay, so you've got 7, if you don't know, root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown. Okay, if you don't know much about how these impact your life, because each energetic hub controls certain emotions and it controls certain body parts. So if you tend to have a lot of low back pain or knee issues, that's usually a root chakra blockage. If you have a lot of any lung issues that we're seeing in the world right now, or breathing problems, tend to stem from a heart chakra blockage. And that is why you'll probably see tons of people that already talk a lot about how important it is with the state of the world right now to heal your trauma. And a lot of it involves opening up that heart chakra. Okay, so the secret to undoing that programming, unraveling that, and not imprinting all that same programming on your children, because as a side note, like, what do you think the reality is for our kids? I mean, my kids, some of them are older, so the world's not going to be so different in 2-3 years. But can you imagine Tatiana's 11? Like, the world is going to be unrecognizable when she finishes what would be considered college in 10 years from now. Like, the type of jobs, you can't even fathom the type of jobs. We will not see the same type of workplace in 10 years. So if you have kids, under 10 years old, the thought process that you're trying to train them to get good grades, to get into a good college so that they can get a quote unquote good job, what is that going to look like? It's not, if AI's taking over most of the workforce and we're going to be all on technology, the idea of trying to follow that life path, even if it worked for you, is probably not going to be the best course of action. You might want to actually think in terms more of developing their sense of self, developing their creative outlets, getting them to think differently so they have a unique perspective of the world. That will be a very useful skill to have in the future. Okay, so in order to step into the unknown and to have a willingness to experience discomfort, we need this thing called challenge. We need it, our kids need it. If we have parents who did not encourage that in us, it's really foreign. This is why it's hard for my husband and I to agree, like, hey, let's go pick up the fifth wheel. It's only a 3-day drive, no big deal. Because challenge was not encouraged. That's okay, lots of other great things were encouraged, but challenge was not a value that was instilled from a young age. The idea of like, it's okay if you fail. It's okay to figure things out. You know, you need to, if you make a mistake, you need to fix it, but we don't fear challenge, at least how I was raised. I didn't fear challenge. Well, challenge or to act brave, bold, I mean, think about it. How often in your everyday life are you being brave and bold, okay? Sometimes we think of challenge as hard. Just because your life is hard doesn't mean you're doing hard things. Totally different. And this is the solar plexus. We call it Manipura. So poor Victor for years was Manny the Moody Mammoth because we love him so much. And Manipura was just not something, it wasn't the skill set that was nurtured. Like I said, the programming was not about Manipura. Well, to be in Manipura, you're going to act brave, bold. Remember I told you there's seven chakras. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this and just put Manipura here. Manipura, this is where flow state. Like I talked about, you know, we don't do traditional school really anymore. I did for the longest time. And every Sunday, my kids would get a syllabus from me. It said, okay, 9 o'clock, Worldly Wise, 9:20, we start math, 9:45, you get a 15-minute recess, 10 o'clock, I want you to work on your 5-paragraph essay. I was like that for like 10 years, like very to the book, and it served me well because it allowed structure to my day. Because at that time, I had like a baby or a newborn and a toddler and a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old. I needed structure. So it's nothing wrong with doing it that way. It's when it doesn't serve you, or this is the more important part. If your kids don't need that and you don't need that, but you're telling yourself that you need that kind of structure in your day because that's what everyone else around you seems to need or say that they need, well, you're going to be in that internal conflict again. And that's not healthy. That's not going to make you thrive. That's not going to really make you excited to get up and homeschool. Is homeschooling the answer? Normally I'd say no, it's not the answer. However, sometimes if the school system you're in is just reiterating that predictive programming, you have to be able to look forward into the future. What's the value system? What are the habits they're learning? Is that long-term effect going to be in their best interest? And if it's not, but you're like, oh, but I can't homeschool because I don't know how, you know how. All you do is just trust your instincts. You put on blinders, apply some of these things I'm talking about. Reach out to me and join me in one of my unschooling webinars, but you are capable. You're totally worthy of doing it. So that was side note. Okay, back to Manipura. So we need flow state. We need now, you know, we used to homeschool that way, and then I started surfing every morning, and I'm like, wow, you're like doing these activities is so much more valuable than what we're learning in algebra right now. So, hey, you guys come paddle out with me. Hey, let's go for a hike and like see how far we can push ourselves. We'd go mountain biking, you know, now it's skiing often. And all of these activities are really healthy because they're forcing you to accept challenge in your life, right? To take on new risks, to figure things out. When my kids go skiing, they'll like say, oh, can I try this jump or snowboarding? Where I'm like, yeah, but don't break your arm. Like, be logical about it. Of course, if they are logical and some random thing happens that they break their arm, I'm not going to be angry at them, but I do put an expectation that I want them to be methodical about it. I'm just start with a 1-inch jump, then go for a 2 to 3-inch jump. Don't just like go full on out, not thinking it through. And they've been raised that way for a long time, so I don't really worry about those things. Could a risk happen and they fall? Yes, but I expect them to be thinking at first before they attempt unnecessary risk. Okay, you want to be on that edge, and it's really important that when people are seeking out flow state, that if this is your comfort zone, okay, that you're not way over here. Like, we need to be hovering right around here, right outside that comfort zone. As soon as you're there, then we need to hover the next layer, right? We need to keep pushing that comfort zone and expanding it little bits at a time without telling ourselves all these stories. I know I do it when I go rock climbing and lead climbing. I'll start telling myself these stories that, like, what if somebody's watching me? What are they going to think of me because I'm not that good? Or, whoa, why can't I climb as good as my daughters? And all these stories are never going to escape our mind. But when we bring them to the conscious brain, we can kind of laugh at them and go, wow, that's really stupid that I'm thinking that. So back to the chakras. Manipura can get blocked by 2 things. So above it is your heart, and below it is your sacral. This is where it ties back into the programming with how you were raised in your family, what your school life was like, what your job is that you have now, and your lifestyle maybe that you're leading now that you completely forgot about all the past things that might be influencing it. Well, sacral chakra is very much developed in our teen years, and it's our sense of worthiness. And what happens is with most programming, it's not even so much rejection. Like, it could be here that you just felt like full rejection. It could be too, though, that you just never had the opportunities to understand your own uniqueness. And if you follow Isabel, especially on her Instagram, she's always giving ideas about creativity. And it's like, oh, come on, is painting really going to be my solution to feeling worthy? And it's not that, it's the quiet space where you get to connect thought to expression. There's lots of different ways, playing instruments, but it's when you take all external pressure off yourself and just get to sit in this space of creative flow, of like, I wonder, oh, I'm feeling this. It's connecting emotion, thought to action is why it's so important. So figuring out where our talents lie, where our passions lie. For many years, we had a gymnastics facility, and one of the coolest things was Victor would teach the young kids, like the 3 to 8-year-olds, and he would draw these really cool, not like what I draw, really cool drawings on the mat, and then have the kids like run and like knock them down or kick them down or do a somersault to knock them over. And he'd get to do all these, just the drawing in and of itself. And we always tell him, like, you need to do that like on Instagram or something, somewhere on YouTube, because the kids would just be so mesmerized. And that was great. That was a byproduct of it. But really, it was so good for him because it was his own like creative time where he'd sit there and the kids would be totally entranced by what's he going to draw? What's he going to draw? And he's like, draw all these things with chalk on the mats. It was really cool. Now, sometimes like with our RV lifestyle, it doesn't have that creative outlet in some places. Can your flow state sports be your creative outlet? They can be. But I know for me, I feel like that's there. And when I get to be creative, it's when I'm writing or when I'm recording a video, when I get to do a little bit more expression of my thoughts and emotions. So we can have our own, sacral chakra blockage is a massive, massive problem for society because everything that society is trying to imprint on you is to be the norm, right? To conform. So conformity is the complete opposite of self-expression, right? And so I do think it's cool because we are moving away from that type of structured world. We are moving way more into creativity, and it really is the root of what I would say for unschooling is just find your child's creative outlet, find their passion and just help nurture it, make time for it, support it. We can also have sacral chakra blockages. I'll go to this real quick. And sorry, no consistency in my colors. Is in our root chakra. If our root chakra is blocked, then there's a good chance the sacral chakra is blocked. And the root chakra blockages tend from safety and security. So if you maybe tend to be a worrywart to begin with, and then you've experienced the last 2 years, well, that could be amplifying a blocked root chakra. And if you don't feel safe and secure, I mean, Victor will be the first to tell you, if you've listened to our podcast, he says it all the time. Like, he grew up with massive trauma and never felt safe. Never. Like, I mean, we had, it takes, even through our travels, it takes days, even to somewhere where we've been before. That is getting better, but days before, where we would like get to a new city or a new campground and like could not relax until 2 or 3 days in. And if you know me, I'm usually like 3 days in, like, all right, been here, done that, let's go to the next place. And he's like, wait. And so even if I said right now, as much as he's worked on it, if I say, hey, let's hop in the truck, we're gonna go drive over to Florida, I'd be like, it's the US, we're fine. Like, you just go down the 90 and then head south. He's like, it would still subconsciously trigger his root chakra. And so this is a really big one, is to notice if you catch yourself, if you are struggling with anxiety, there's a good chance it's some root chakra blockage. And if, remember, you might have forgotten about it. You might have been like, whatever, that happened. I was a kid. It's not important anymore. But your cells haven't. They've trapped that memory. They've stored that memory. And that's what we end up doing with our healings, is help energetically move that energy out of that chakra and get that wheel spinning correctly again. So this can be blocked. This is blocked. This gets blocked. Sacral chakra, right? We don't really know who we are or what our thoughts are. And sometimes just sitting in meditation is enough to let you go like, oh, there's more to me than my job, who I'm married to, what my kids do. That's the root of it. Is there more to you than, we have those labels like, I am a personal trainer, and I am married to Victor, and I have kids who are bloggers and life coaches and whatever, all these things, but that's not who I am, right? That's not who I am at all. So we have to start understanding that part. Eventually, we start tapping into what our purpose is, and that helps us really open up our sacral chakra. Okay, so then let's say these aren't blocked and you're Manipura, but you're still like, I don't step outside my comfort zone. Remember, that's comfort zone. It's not what you do. I guarantee your to-do list today is huge, and you're busy and you're successful and you're productive, but that is not Manipura. Okay, Manipura is acting bold and brave, chasing flow state. Okay, and it could be heart chakra blockage. Heart chakra, it tends to be another one of those weird programming things that we are taught to, we're almost rewarded for overgiving. There's like this badge that comes if you can self-sacrifice the most and give to your family or your kids or your spouse or your extended family, whoever can give the most. And it's like a badge of honor if you ignore your own needs more than the other person. And so the heart chakra can be blocked just because it's overactive, it's overgiving, and it's spending so much time out there that it's not coming back and reflecting on, what do I like to do? Who am I? Am I feeling safe in my surroundings, in my body? Or it could be blocked from lack of forgiveness, from not letting go. And I think a lot of people carry around with them a significant amount of grief and regret. And sometimes to find those, it's just sitting in silence again and noticing like, does this thing that I'm telling myself doesn't really bother me anymore, but does it? Like, does the thought replay? Do you notice that out of nowhere, the thought might arise? Being able to truly move into this new earth era, we have to go deeper and deeper into that grief and into that regret and letting it go, because it's such a limiting factor. And one way to notice is like, check your breath work. Like if you can breathe and relax the shoulders and really fill up the chest space and fill up the belly, it's going to help. It starts to move that energy instead of having to like say, I forgive them, I forgive them, I forgive them, I forgive yourself is a big one. A lot of times it's easy to forgive somebody else that hurt them, but we beat up ourselves for like, I said this thing on Instagram and someone took it the wrong way and now I feel really bad, but at the same time, I really believe in this element of it, but I forget it. And so it's hard. It's not easy. Okay, then we get throat. So if we can heal this one and heal the sacral chakra, right? I'm safe. I know who I am. I'm really weird and that's just okay. I totally love to just be out in the world. I forgive myself. I was not perfect, but look, my life is short. So I may as well go live it to the fullest and make a huge impact, even if it means recording a video that somebody's probably gonna not like. So we get to throat chakra, and this is where the magic happens, right? This is where we get to take everything that we're thinking and feeling inside of us and have other people understand us. And it's such a tricky spot because most of the time people don't understand us. And it's such an important thing for how we feel to be understood. And if it's not even to be understood by someone else, not that we care necessarily about our worthiness through them, but by being understood, it makes us feel like we have a place in the world. It allows us to chase our purpose. It helps us feel safe and secure. So balancing the throat chakra can be really tricky because it's a 50-50. Again, Celestine Prophecy is really good in the book about talking about how there has to be 50% speaking your truth and 50% listening to somebody else's truth. And that's where the beauty of relationships come in, right? If we're in a relationship with someone who we can express to each other and say, but this is what I'm feeling. And like Victor and I sat down this weekend. Remember I told you, we were like, you don't ever want to go. Well, just stay. It's fine. And we eventually sat down and talked enough. I'm like, this is coming down to perception. Your perception is that you're supposed to have a roof over your head, have just a job that you work at all the time, have comfort, have a routine. That's okay, but that's not my perception of what life's supposed to be like, right? I've done that in the past. I'm like, that didn't really bring me joy. Now, for a long time, my perception was like, I don't want a house. It's just like, it's so much money. I need to be cheap about things. And then I was in a house. I'm like, whoa, it's kind of nice having a home base. I don't want to stay here too long, but it's kind of nice having some, it's okay, right? There's a story we tell ourselves as our perception. For a long time, I told myself I was more valuable if I was cheap and frugal. And I'm tough. I don't need comfort. Well, ask my kids. I love my high thread count sheets. I'm ordering a jacuzzi. I love jacuzzis. Like, there are some comforts but I had to rewire that story, right? You have to change. You have to catch the story and then change it. And then you use your throat chakra to find people who will listen to you and will also who you're going to listen to them. Throat chakra is really big. And then my favorite, this is where the magic happens. Problem is you can't really get to the magic there until you clear up these things or at least draw some more energy from them. If you have all this energy down here, and these are your body chakras down here, okay, this is the transition, and then these are your mind chakras. And some of us spend way too much up here, and we have to force ourselves down into this. That's why I think flow state for me was so big, because I was so always in my head. I was really good at school, so I was just great at being intellectual, but it was really hard. I had to force myself to tune that out. And when you're in flow state, you get to stop thinking for a while. When I'm skiing, I'm not that good. So when I'm skiing, all I'm thinking about is which direction my skis are pointing. And I'm not worried about what video do I need to record when I get back? Third eye is being able to see the future. And honestly, I should have brought Victor on for this, but if he would tell you, he's like, you know what? He told me this morning, you know what? I never thought, he's not quite 50, but I never thought I was going to be here at 50 in this spot in life. Not that it's necessarily all bad, but some parts are a little frustrating. And it's like, but you know what? I never thought about it. That's the problem. I never thought, what did I want my life to look like here? And me on the flip side is like, I'm constantly, like I say, the reason my kids are like they are now is because when they were 3, 4, 5, 6, I kept thinking, what do I want the relationship to look like? What do I want the days to look like when they're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21? As the more you can put yourself into your future self, that doesn't mean you have to live there all the time. In fact, a lot of people use their manipura, their busyness, like, how like, oh, I got to close this deal and I got to go to this practice for my kids and I got to do this, do, all that stuff is they think that they're doing it for this, for future, because they're like, well, I got to for future security, but it's really a link down to here that you obviously feel a gap in what your future security is, or you're just programmed to constantly, like, for example, in a podcast, Victor and I said, when we were trying to go to Europe in 2016, we had saved up a chunk of money and we went, and Victor was he wasn't super happy about the whole trip. I mean, parts of it was great, but parts of it was kind of like just stressed all the time. And after that, I was like, well, I don't want to travel until I have X amount of money. And then we got to a point where we had X amount of money. And it was still like kind of grumpy and unhappy for parts of it, and just wanting to, well, then the next time we go, it's like, okay, I want X amount of money. You know, it gets bigger and bigger. And what happened for this trip for me to go to Florida is the same thing happened. It's like, no, I'm not going until I have this much amount of money. I'm like, well, but wait, like last year, it was the amount you have now. And it's really good to have goals. We have to be driven. Like the third eye should absolutely fuel our goals. But if it's coming from a place of root chakra blockage, where you're telling yourself a story that I will never be safe and secure until this thing happens, then is there a chance life might just pass you by and you won't get to enjoy it? So the third eye can have some future goals, but that's not really what I tell people. When I work with you as a client, I say, what is the feeling? What is the feeling you want to create? Okay. Is it a feeling of newness? That's me. Like, I love feeling newness, but newness and connection. Because if I went and did the trip to Florida, although this one by myself, I might be able to do, but I probably after 3 days, like freak out and be like, I'm all alone. Where is everybody? So I need some form of newness and connection where I'm sharing an experience with you. Like, did you see yesterday a coyote walked across our back porch here? I'm like, did you see that? You know, that feeling where you're like, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that too. You know, we need that in life. At least I do. So we have to be able to know the feeling we want to create. Okay, my husband's a type 2. A big feeling is affirmation, or the problem is we have to be careful where our feeling and the value system with it, right? I can myself go create newness, but I can't go create validation for myself. I can do things to morph how I speak to people to get validation, but that's not the same. You need to think about feelings that you can create intrinsically, right? So you could go for strength. Like, I know it's hard when we travel in an RV because he doesn't always have his weight set. And so he likes the feeling of feeling strong, and you can't feel strong by lifting a 15-pound mace. Okay, at least for him, he can't. So whatever the feeling is that really drives us through our day, that is what the third eye can do. And I'm going to tell you my cheat sheet way to do this is learn how to script. Everything we've done in our life is because I can go sit there and script out like this summer. All right, we are in the Tetons. Victor and the kids are super happy staying back in the RV. I'm so glad I got this site for our big, huge fifth wheel, and that there's electricity hookups, and they're gonna be totally happy and set because Victor's used to the Tetons. He's not gonna worry at all. I'm going backpacking with the girls for a couple nights. It's gonna be so good, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, I know that feeling, I'm gonna get to create newness. I'm going to create connection. He's going to feel safe and secure. He's going to have he'll probably get to see some wildlife, which he loves. So creating those feelings, include your kids. Your kids, I can do a whole nother video about knowing that, but you can look at, you know, that's a big reason Isabel reads kids' natal chart. Well, she reads everybody's natal charts, but you know, she can look at a child's natal chart and be like, oh, this kid's gonna have a tendency to want to chase this certain feeling. She was doing a natal chart reading with Tatiana yesterday, and it was so cute to see Tatiana like just glowing. Like she knows that Tatiana knows that she is different than her siblings, and she takes pride in it. She's like, you know, she needs a lot more safety and security. She's way more cautious, and then she tends to be more emotionally volatile. And so she feels really proud of her. She's like, yeah, I have 7 water types, and I'm whatever, just however she described her uniqueness made her feel really proud of herself. That's going to do great things for her sacral chakra, right? And then the last, I don't really touch much on it for this part, but crown chakra is just remembering like you're part of a big puzzle, right? You can't go it alone. And whether you choose to, whether there's a specific religion that you find that works for you, whatever it is, you don't necessarily have to have religion, but spirituality is absolutely important to understand that there's an interconnectedness. And my beautiful tent drawing, that's what probably happens. For most people, when you go, even living in an RV, I know for me, it was extremely powerful in that crown chakra opening because you're outdoors, you look up at the stars. I mean, I love where we live here in Montana too. You can just see so many stars, and it's hard not to like look up, see all the stars, smell clean air, feel the forest around you, stand on a mountaintop. It's pretty hard not to be in those situations and not feel like you're part of something much greater than just yourself. So while all of these are great ways to work on your own self-growth, they're really nothing until we can step into the crown chakra and realize that we're kind of all in this together. And so I apologize if any of my other posts maybe came off as rough. They really aren't meant to be rough. The fact is like, I think we have a job to do as parents to break our own programming. And the easiest way to break our own programming is to walk through each chakra and be like, all right, which chakra is holding me back, right? Which chakra could I nurture a little bit better? And if you need help with that, reach out to me. If you're interested in the chakra healing, it talks about each one, like what it influences, the symptoms of a blocked chakra, what each chakra represents, how it became blocked in the first place. When it feels balanced, or when it's balanced, you're going to feel certain things, the path to growth. It has these awesome journal prompts. It has your mantras that you can rip out and print out. It has yummy recipes, and it has poses that are really good, yoga poses that are good for it. And it has it for each of the chakras. I don't know why I haven't shared it with you before. Maybe because I'm too busy doing too much of this. I don't know. So I'll put the link in our bio or in the description. All right, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Tell me if I should do more of these on Instagram because I do this a lot on YouTube, but I haven't done it on Instagram. All right, hope you guys have